is an exponentially growing phenomenon for quite some time. It will probably stabilize maybe 10, 15 years later, but today, if we look at the way things are, far from banning mobiles in classroom, we will have to start using them. And therefore, while we'll have smart boards for the teachers, we'll have smartphones for the learner. And what we as a group are probably exploring is, what can we do with those smartphones? And this is the first step in that. We have had a lot of thinking about this. We could give you complete lesson plans of what to do in class 6 chemistry or class 7 history, class 8 geography or whatever, but we don't want to do that because this session we want more like an eye-opener. We want this session of participation. We want this session. In fact, we try to do too much during a session. If you look at from a professional trainer's point of view, they say, what do you mean hands-on with 100 people in a room? We say, fine. What we are saying is this is a starting of hands-on, so it's not only theoretical and didactic, but maybe people form groups, somebody can lead that, and then others can see, and then they can continue. And the future learning will continue to be with social media. Continuous learning will not necessarily happen in this way. So the outline of the program is that the first session is on the pedagogical implications of social media. And that is actually the most important thing, because as we are trying to say, the first, I've been talking about this for a few months, and people really ask me, so what does social media do for learning? What is it that it will do new for learning? And apart from all the building of the arguments with Rajiv Tandon, Atul and Madhu Parhar somewhere will talk about learning design and how you move away from instructional design to learning design, because most of the principles of education and learning, whether you go from the earliest Jean Piaget to Gandhi's model of instruction or whatever, actually talked about somebody like a sage on the stage who knew everything, and he designed an instructional experience for you. But what we are talking about is we are talking about designing learning engagement for our learners in future, which becomes completely different. So you move away from instructional design to learning design. So in the morning, the first 3 sessions are by Dr. Rajiv Tandon, Atul and Madhu Parhar. We are great believers that mobiles will be the way forward. And in fact, for next year's event, which will be around the same time, we've already settled on dates for annual update on matters education 2011, the corresponding workshop seminar around that will be on handheld learning. Because by that time 3G would be there, people would have experimented, we would have done some pilot studies in schools and institutions. We just saw an ad recently announcing an MBA on Facebook. I haven't got into the details, but it's a very interesting thing. This thing says, oh my God, now MBA on Facebook. Now, obviously some people think it's taking things a little too far, but that's the kind of thing that's happening, so we will talk. So Manoj Pant here is an exceptionally well-acquainted person with the mobile history. I'm sure it's more interesting to ask him about the 2G scams and the potential of the 3G scams. But here he'll probably talk about what the operating systems are, what the mobiles are, how can you see the operating system, things you didn't know you could do with a mobile, and so on and so forth. Basically trying to build a framework for that. He knows so much that it's a challenge to try to contain him to that 35-40 minutes that we will have. But as you can see, once you know him, you can continue to engage with him in the future. Shishir Saran has just gone out for a while. He is going to talk a little bit about social media for business purposes. And Vishal Singhal is from Self-Track, which engages in doing research on people's usage, behavior, etc., etc. So far their clients have largely been corporates who are interested in seeing how mobile penetration, usage, etc. is going to happen. But one of the things we are trying to tell him is that education will be a much larger market than corporate usage. So he will share some of the findings with us. We then want to talk about case studies and examples. Each of these topics we could go forever. I mean, you can believe I can just tell you the mathematics behind this forever. And Rajiv Tandon can tell you the learning behind it and so on. So in the third session we are talking case studies and examples. We obviously have to do some picking and choosing. And Lingaraj Mishra, again an associate of Rajiv Tandon, he'll talk about a whole range of case studies using social media tools. So that opens up your eyes to what are the kind of things that can be done. So these are examples of things done. Then of course Tarun Verma, who has some personal problem, he sent me a message that he might not be able to come. He has some personal issue in the family, but he's also making it. He's talking about real studies of making alumni networks using social media. He's been